really touching anything. So.
Hello there, we've been waiting for you.
Hello?
Hello, Jughead, this is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Best Coast Comics. I am Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and I am joined by
Joe Montana. Oh wait,
the
Bigby
second greatest of all
McFly.
time quarterback has joined us for the show, folks. This is exciting. I literally just watched like a YouTube documentary about Joe Montana the other day, so that's really a fun coincidence. Forgot how good he actually was.
Off the cuff, wanted to say I was somebody else.
No, yeah, perfect. But really, that's actually Joe Montana. I know he's changed a lot over the years, but that's actually true. That's he's got a witness protection program thing going on. It's totally this different thing.
Plastic surgery, you know.
Yeah. No, that's Bigby McFly, the comic book guy, who I had the pleasure of hanging out with the other day. It's been a while, so that was fun to hang out. The other day being yesterday. I don't know why I made it the other day, but you know,
The other day.
technically true. Folks, we are streaming over here on my channel. I'm Bronze Age Nerd again. We're streaming over on Bigby McFly, the comic book guy, aka Joe Montana's channel, and we're also streaming over on the EXP's networks. EXP is an awesome channel out there with lots of comic book content. We'll be talking about some of those shows a little bit later on. If you guys want to sub up to any of those channels, their links are in the description below, and we would appreciate that. So please go check it out. And before we get into any of the other topics we have for tonight, which have some really fun ones, let's say hello to chat. GTK Comic has returned in the #1 poll position there. Excellent. Good job, GTK Comic, for holding it down. Arg second, says Richard Wistfall. You know what? That's okay, Richard. We love you for being second. Silver medal's great. We got Collector P joining us nice and early this time. What's up, Collector P? Oh, we got What's on the Comic Rack. Always nice to see you. Thank you for being here.
Hey, buddy.
And we're here. We're here. That's an important note that I want to point out too. I'm sure we'll get joined by lots of other people we'll say hello to. So let's talk a little bit about topics we have for tonight. We need to talk about our community art contest because it's in full swing. The first round is complete officially since the show is now on. And we have some exciting winners. In the second round, we're going to welcome some contestants you haven't seen submissions from yet in the actual contest because they had first round buys in the tournament bracket that were randomly assigned to them. So that's exciting. We're going to get some new art to kind of, go head to head against other people. We're going to talk about a really cool topic that kind of came up naturally, which is about how we recommend comics to new readers and getting new readers involved in comic books when it comes to suggesting stuff. I think it's a really fun conversation we can have. I'm looking forward to that part of the conversation as well. Plus, we have some comic news, some good, some bad. Luckily, nothing terrible, at least not yet. We'll see if that holds. But yeah, there's definitely quite a bit of stuff going on that we'll definitely get to in the comic book community. But we should probably start out with, speaking of the comic book community art contest that we run. Pretty exciting stuff. Were you following along with the votes and checking out who was in the lead and everything? And
For a while there, I was following, and then I was like, I was hearting everybody's little votes and stuff, and then I was like, real life got in the way.
What is it going to take to get Bigby to hang something on that wall?
I have some plans to bring up. I have that shelf down in the Bigby Bureau that all the graphic novels were on. I'm going to probably bring that up and put it up here.
Okay, cool.
Putting a bunch of stuff on it. So
nice.
We'll get some stuff up there. I'm sorry, guys. Don't mean to have a boring background.
I mean, you've got some decent stuff back there. What is the thing that's on the bottom right next to your shoulder?
Weapon X hardcover.
Oh, right on. Cool.
The Barry Windsor Smith.
Hey, you can't go wrong with that. It's not hanging on the wall, but I think it counts.
It's on an easel back there. I used to do my very first videos. All I did was my hands, and there was an easel that had a little thing that said, "Please subscribe."
Okay,
so that's the easel there.
The infamous easel. All right. So without further ado, let's get our winners announced for the community art contest. Well, not the winners, but the first round winners. So the first post we put up was Actual Dracula and Ben Taz. I love both these pieces.
Torn on that one.
What's that?
I'm torn on that one.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't have to vote.
We got to select, so I did not vote. We selected the ones that got in, so
we won't be voting in any of the rounds or anything like that. This is all you guys voting on the who's going to take it all home. But I do think that maybe if I had been able to scan Ben's, it might have helped him out a little bit, maybe as far as like it showing up a little bit better or something like that. But I'm saying that because I know that, Actual Dracula is easily the winner here. If you go through and look, people came out and supported Drac all the way, which they both did an amazing job. This is like one of those NFL matchups or whatever, where, one of the best teams in the league is going home because that's just how the seeding worked out. Right. Like these are two fantastic pieces, and unfortunately they can't both make it in there. So, Dracula's moving forward.
Drac is on the move.
Yeah. So I need to start my tournament here and select my winner, which is Actual Dracula, and I'll show you guys the board after we're done tallying these up here.
Bracket of doom.
It sounds so sinister when we say it that way. Our next,
hey Derek,
it's the bracket of awesome.
That's right, right.
Elliot Wright and Colossus Collector, a couple awesome people here as well. And going through here,
last I looked, Colossus was romping on Elliot.
Yep. And I don't think anything's changed that. I can just kind of almost go through here and I don't even really, it's pretty. Oh, we got a few more. Actually, you know what? There's a few votes.
Tally.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then we got 4 Colossus, 3.
Our top one was for Elliot also.
10.
Yeah, sounds like
Elliot. Yeah, Colossus has it by several votes. Yep.
That's congratulations. I really like both of those pieces.
And this is one of those ones where it's hard to say was it the color versus the illustration, because I honestly, this was another one that I would have a hard time choosing, because I think they're both really good. I don't even know what I would actually vote for, but
I think the deciding factor might have been also that Elliot doesn't have a lot of social media presence, and Colossus is a YouTuber, so that might have helped a little bit.
It definitely could be. That's part of this too, that we can't really control too much. Hopefully people do vote on the art. But hey, supporting the artist is also a good thing. Again, this is everybody
all for fun.
Yeah, and everybody who submits got in. There was no like gatekeeping there and like that. This is all just kind of about showing off their art and getting their names on the screen and hopefully get people to go follow their social media accounts and that kind of stuff too. So, and encouraging people to draw.
Right, that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Okay, so I need to move Colossus Collector forward.
You move the Hulk forward. Ghost Rider went forward. Now the Hulk went forward.
Oh man, could you imagine if it was the characters that we had to like, eventually it came down to that.
Funny to look at it that way.
Let's see.
I mean, I think Spawn would probably crush Daredevil's booty.
Yeah. I mean, anybody can win on any kind of plot armor kind of story, but this would be a tough fight for Daredevil. I kind of like, though, it's Daredevil versus Hell Spawn. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Wow, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I like it.
Norrin takes this one pretty by a mile, I would say.
Yeah,
pretty easily.
I do want to say, like, everybody who put in artwork, I really appreciate everybody who has submitted, and I dropped the ball. I got to get you some artwork. I've got stuff people are sending me, so I got to get it to you for next week.
We do have a piece that I have that somebody submitted to me that we can show off. So we have one official 2025 contestant so far. Right. We are going to, one small little process note, we're going to change it so that every artist only gets one piece a week, but that you can still submit. We're going to do weekly shows. There's going to be 52 weeks this year, I think. So plenty of opportunities. You can still get in lots and lots of pieces. Yeah. It just kind of spreads it out a little bit more, so we don't show.
As long as Brian doesn't drop the ball and forget to get the Chris.
Well, right now I think we're fine. But if it's down to crunch time, I won't keep anybody out. I do want to say hello to some other people that dropped in. We got Derek in the chat. He used to be hands only, just like CJ.
So I started.
No smoking though. He is a smoke-free environment.
I didn't have Kool-Aid Man either, so
true. Yeah, or Hawaiian Punch guy, whatever his name is. What's up, Damien? Sleepy Reader 666 in the house.
Damien.
Yep, Sleepy Reader 666 would probably appreciate the Daredevil versus Hellspawn matchup as well. I imagine that'd be pretty cool. Got Sycotron saying, hey, read comics every day. I love it.
That's right.
I love it. And then we got Swagglehouse in here as well. What's up, Mickey? Nice to see you. Appreciate you dropping in.
Shouted out your book the other night on live stream.
Nice. You're looking for
people. There were people who I'm like, you guys don't know that you don't know this book. What?
You gotta get into the sanity.
Yeah, it was like, dude. So now they're buying it. So there you go.
Hey, there you go. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. I want to see that kind of success come from the comic book community, just like I want to see success for these comic book community artists. In this matchup, we had Roscoe, which is, Geek Out with Roscoe. If you're not familiar with his channel or his IG, go follow him up. We also have a friend of the channel as well, Comics Limited, aka Trav. So this was a close matchup. There was a lot of votes coming in for both.
Yeah. Roscoe, also known as half the man he used to be.
8, 9. Roscoe's got a lot of votes recently, though. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, wow. Okay, so definitely, let's see, I got
swayed in the favor of Roscoe.
2, 3
there at the end, though.
Definitely seeing. Oh yeah, Roscoe, hands down by TKO is the winner of this round. Let me mark him down on our bracket. Again, I'll show that off here at the end so you guys can see where we're currently standing. I just don't want to keep switching back and forth because that's hard on StreamYard. Hey, wait a minute, did I miss one?
This is Submariner. Namora is in the contest.
Oh, I didn't mark down. Oh, that's what I didn't do. I didn't mark down Norrin's win there. That's what it is. Okay. Okay, so let's show off the bracket.
Bird, Dan.
Oh, we got Ferdbird in the house. What's up?
Yeah.
I think what's up, Dan? How's it going? All right. So this is our bracket. This is where we're currently sitting. If I do that, that's a little bit better, and I can zoom in a little bit. I think there we go. So you can kind of see the results here. How does it
zoom and enhance?
So we got Dracula took down Bentaz, Colossus Collector. So our next matchup in that branch of the tree here is going to be Eddie Rodriguez versus actual Dracula.
There we go.
And then we have Colossus Collector is going to take on CJ Design.
All right.
In the bottom half of the bracket, We had Norin Rad move forward, so Scott Hasselwood is going to face Norin Rad. That's going to be an epic matchup right there.
Yeah,
And Roscoe moving forward. Now Roscoe has to face
Speaking
the
of
infamous Roy Thomas.
Titanic tussles.
Now, some people are probably going to be wondering if it's fair that we put Roscoe up against Roy Thomas. Multi-talented Renaissance man, Roy Thomas, creator of every character known to man, including Bigby and myself, and Richard Westfall. He created pretty much everybody.
Sydney Sweeney,
Superman, Batman, Sydney Sweeney, legendary artist, painted the Mona Lisa. No, it's just kind of a running joke on this show that Roy Thomas is, because of the whole Wolverine creator controversy, we kind of threw him in there. We could have put Sydney Sweeney in there. That may have been unfair because Sydney Sweeney, also a running joke, may have actually won. I think she had a chance. But when Roscoe versus Roy Thomas on this particular round, this is only because we only had 11 contestants and not 12. We had to kind of put somebody in there, and I'm pretty sure Roscoe's going to win hands down.
The reason we put Roy Thomas in was because jokingly Richard had submitted Hulk 181 as his created piece from Roy Thomas. But
yeah, exactly. See, Sleepy Reader gets it. Okay, so Skunk Snot. All you have to do through any form of social media to submit your artwork, you could send us an instant message on Instagram. You could tag Bigby or myself on Instagram, or both. You could send it to us through Discord. You could send it to my email, which is thebronzeagenerd@gmail.com. Hit me up on Facebook. Hit Bigby up on Facebook. However we want to get it to us. If you see a message back from us saying, "Hey, we got it. We're going to feature it on the show," or something like that, then you're in. Everybody gets in. The only thing that could happen is if the artwork is not safe for the stream.
Right.
That's the only edge case where we might have to say, "Hey, do you have anything else we could show?" Otherwise, we'll have to heavily censor this image. That's about the only thing that would happen.
And the only thing that's going to do that is if you have actual nudity in the image, or
or extremely
graphic violence or something. Yeah. But
but as long as it's traditional, something that would probably be printed in a comic book that is not restricted to certain age groups, you're probably gonna be fine.
Right. I will say, my preferred method of contact is Instagram. And if you do contact me with a picture, because a lot of times people just send me artwork and they don't say "Hey, I wanted to send this. I wanted to submit this for your community challenge." I'm just like, "Oh, cool, neat artwork." And I'm like, "Wait," and then I have to I message them back. "Did you want that in the community thing?"
Yeah, it helps if you're talking about the community art contest or the community, and the whole thing. Sure, it's an art contest, but that's not really it's an art contest at the end of the year. Throughout the course of the year, we just want your submissions. If you submit something, you're automatically in the contest,
right? It's just about just showing people's artwork, getting your art exposed to other people, helping you make connections with other artists in the art community who can bounce ideas off of. I mean, if you talk to me, there's a group of artists that I can put you in a Instagram chat group with, where we all post our art on a different chat room, and we bounce ideas off each other. So it's cool.
Jay points out that they are wearing pants, and it seems
they're wearing pants. That seems to work. Yeah. Well, I don't know. YouTube, whenever I posted that picture, YouTube would always say it was unsafe, and then I'd have to have an actual human look at it, and they'd go, "Oh yeah, she's wearing pants."
Didn't have a chance to say hello yet to Awesome Sauce Radio. What's up, Awesome Sauce,
man?
And also Mr. Nope, I highlighted your comment there too as well, but I just wanted to officially say hello to you. Thanks for joining us. Comics Limited, I highlighted you. Also wanted to say hi,
Mr. Trev.
Yeah. It's rigged. Hey, at least you didn't go up against the infamous Roy Thomas. That would have been an automatic loss. At least you got some votes. So good work there on your submission, man.
Yeah, your Iron Man was beautiful, buddy.
Yeah, it was really gorgeous. It's funny because the way that one lined up, it was kind of like the two most colorful pieces versus each other. So, and speaking of community art, I mean, at this point, I may as well show off the submission we had. So let me get that set up for you guys to check out.
Trav says I can do it as well. Maybe he's saying that people could reach out to him.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he's able to share it with us, we can get it on the show before each Monday. This piece is done by somebody who's been kind of a follower of mine for a long time. Goes by the name online of Headless Hammerhead. He's in my Discord server. You can check out a lot of portrait art he's done before. He does like commissioned portraits for like dogs and stuff too for people. Does a really good job with that. This is a nice little Supergirl he did.
I love it.
Sketch cover.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
very cool. And I love the color in the logo is a smart choice there.
Yeah, it's like that spot color that really makes it pop.
And Jay, I just want to point out she's not wearing pants. Okay. Just make sure
not wearing pants, but she is wearing an undergarment.
Well, I mean, she has to. You're flying through the air in a short skirt. What are you going to do?
Right. Is that what they call them? Spanx? Is that what the cheerleaders wear?
Sure. Yeah, if you say so.
Sure. Well, my daughter used to be in cheerleading. That's what she said they were.
I'll take your word for it. But yeah, so we got Headless Hammerhead in there for 2025. You'll see him at the year end, unless it's a different piece. You might see a different piece from him if you keep submitting different pieces.
Right.
But
I like that one. That's really nice. Very cool.
I've seen a lot of his art over the last few years. He does a really good job. That's one of my favorites. He actually sketched me on a Batman the Detective comic book. He did that and sent it to me. That was pretty cool. I was blown away by that.
Cool.
Yeah. Just trying to stay warm. Yeah, it's chilly one in a lot of parts of the country, including where I'm at and where Bigby's at too, for that matter. We were just talking about that before the show.
Yeah,
we're old. We talk about the weather.
Don't go to close any valves.
Yeah, it literally affected Bigby at work today in a pretty negative way.
There's somebody, but I got the nickname Hulk now. So
there you go. I mean, it's got pros and cons, right?
I grabbed a brass valve and tried to close it, and it just snapped right off.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Nope,
you don't want to do that. So I guess we should probably move on to news before we cover our topic, which again, we're going to talk about comic book recommendations to new readers. We had something happen, last week we talked about Diamond, and we kind of talked about Diamond more or less catching up with some of the stories that have been happening when we were off for a week that we didn't have a show. And of course, literally the next day after we streamed, kind of all hell broke loose with the Diamond situation. Yeah, it's pretty insane. So Diamond has filed for Chapter 11 relief. I think it's kind of everybody's familiar with this. I'm sure everybody's talked it to death. We're kind of the last ones to it because it broke right after our last show. Right. But we'll talk about it real fast. This is from Business Wire. Mostly this is just the press release from Diamond. So if you're not familiar, Diamond Comic Distributors used to be the only distributor name in town. For a good chunk of like parts of the 90s and the 2000s and even some of the 2010s. And now, obviously, we have Lunar out there doing a really good job doing distribution. And then Penguin Random House entered the game when it had a exclusive contract with, well, not an exclusive contract, but a primary contract with Marvel. And then Diamond was still distributing Marvel, like they were getting stuff from Penguin and Random House and then distributing it. But where we're at now is Diamond has had a lot of delays. Their Plattsburgh distribution center was closed under basically no notice. And now we've had some updates from Diamond. The latest one is that they filed for Chapter 11. So important thing to remember about Chapter 11, this doesn't mean that Diamond is going out of business imminently. That's Chapter 7. This is the type of bankruptcy where you're basically trying to seek funds to continue your business and consolidate so you can become solvent again and continue to operate.
It's a time buying measure. It staves off some creditors for a little bit to let you reorganize and regroup.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of where we're at with Diamond. Makes sense considering some of the things we've been hearing about Diamond. I don't think this was a massive surprise to anybody when this happened. I think it was kind of shocking just to read it suddenly after hearing that statement from Diamond. But I think considering what's been happening with Diamond, it kind of made a lot of sense. The second order thing I wanted to talk about here, which is a little bit more newsworthy, I think, considering everybody already knows about Diamond filing bankruptcy for the most part, is this. And this is from ICV2, which is a great retailer-focused comic book website. So this talks about Diamond's unsecured creditors and so basically who they owe money to, essentially. And the shocker was, and I guess it's not really a shocker if you stop and kind of logically think about who Diamond would have been getting most of their comic books from that they were trying to distribute. But Penguin Random House is Diamond's largest unsecured creditor. They have 30 of them that were listed in the filings, and they owe 9.2 million, ranging from 9.2 million to 163,000. And Penguin Random House is the largest creditor, and Bandai and NECA are the next two, which, if you're not familiar, Diamond obviously distributes more than comic books. They also distribute things like toys and action figures and statues and games and all kinds of other stuff too that they carry in their catalog. So I think it's kind of where those two companies come in. But still pretty surprising in a lot of ways.
One of the things I hadn't thought about is the Alliance. That's the game arm of Diamond. It's a completely different distribution company, but they are owned by the same parent company, and I hadn't thought about that. Alliance is a big piece to a lot of game stores for getting things like Pokemon and Magic and board games and Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of that kind of stuff. So.
Oh, yeah, and here I didn't even see that part because it does say Bandai supplies Diamond's division Alliance game distributors with the highly successful Bandai TCGs, including One Piece. And it's owed 4.3 million and some change. NECA, which owns WizKids, is for about 2.68 million. So there's a lot. There's a lot there. I mean, it's not surprising, right? If a company files Chapter 11, they owe people money. Like, that's just
I find it interesting as being a former retailer. There are, as a retailer, there are many times when you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, trying to make everything stay solvent and put all the pieces in order and make the board game make sense. But Diamond was very good about always breathing down your neck about collecting their debts. So
right. I guess, what? I forgot there are actually some more dimensions to this that we should talk about real fast. First, I'm going to highlight some chat. I know Damien was saying something about this. Many companies survive Chapter 11. I worry about the small publishers who may be surviving month to month. And you're very astute in pointing that out, Damien, because there are lots of companies that are dependent on, on the distributors, and lots of shops that are dependent on getting their shipments. And,
there were several publishers that were still exclusive with Diamond, right? So I mean, that's a big thing.
Well, and that's the next thing I was going to talk about, actually. So part of this, is obviously there's some companies that are scrambling to get their comics to stores, or to retailers, I should say, not just shops. And one of those is Image. And I did get this from somebody who's in my Discord, who is a retailer. And so Lunar is going to start accepting the Image orders that were for, this is, from last week, basically. So for the 113 FOC, so January 13th FOC orders. So Lunar's actually taking those orders and accepting them and going to be fulfilling them, which is interesting. So, I mean, again, where is Image going to go? At this point, they need to get their comic books out there. They're one of the largest comic book companies out there, and they need to get their comic books to retailers. So it's not terribly surprising, of course. But it is definitely part of what's going on here in this picture, is that you're going to see retailers lining up most likely with Lunar and Penguin Random House. And I do have an actual update from Diamond about that, but it's really blurry and it doesn't say anything different. So, yeah, basically it's the same difference. And then there's another one too here that's along the same lines. Diamond will not be receiving product that will be on sale for $129 from Image. Lunar will be accepting late January 6th Image FOC orders from customers. So basically, I think there's some writing on the wall here that looks like Image is going to do what they can to probably go with Lunar, most likely.
So are they saying that Image will not be sending anything through Diamond then, or?
It looks like until, from what I could see from all these different updates I got, different bulletins, it looked like it's going to be updated weekly from what I could see. Gotcha. If somebody could update us on that, that has more recent information from either Diamond, Lunar, or Image, let us know. But it kind of looked like it was,
as a publisher or a person putting something out, that's got to be scary to be putting that into the hands of somebody who's going through a financial crisis, right? So
yeah. Well, and even a company like Lunar, I'm sure they're happy to take on this responsibility, as maybe show Image what they can do. Other publishers too, of course. At the same time, that's instant work that they were not expecting, that they didn't have time to ramp up for, that could create some logistical issues for them. I mean, that if we go back to some of the logistical issues that Diamond was having, it came from spur of the moment changes and where they were operating from and where things were coming from. So kind of makes sense.
So Travis is saying that I Like Comics gets their Image orders through Lunar. So maybe Lunar was already doing some Image and they're just accepting people's transfer of order over to Lunar from Diamond.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not super up on who all goes through who exclusively. Just I know kind of where it comes through for most people, it seems like. So I'm sure there's little things like that happen. It's good to get updated on those, and I'd love to. Anybody who has corrections for us on that stuff, we'd love to hear about it.
Right.
Matt from Popsequentialism says all publishers should be scrambling to get their remaining unshipped inventory because every book Diamond sells sold is a book that publishers won't get paid for. Yeah. Yep. Want to say hello to a couple of people I saw pop in as well. Alex, hello. Yeah. You're saying hi to Adam, but we're saying hi to you. So there you go. Adam is awesome sauce, by the way, for people that don't know.
Going to Vegas tomorrow.
Woo. What's going on? Is it AVN? What's going on in Vegas, Adam?
Showgirl.
Yeah. What's that?
Showgirls.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, there's that too, of course. You know what? I can't believe I forgot about this. I feel bad for phrasing it as no terrible news. There actually is a couple kind of terrible pieces of news that we should talk about real fast. It's kind of just one of these things we talk about over and over again, and it always
won't go away. It keeps rearing its ugly head.
Yeah, things that keep rearing their ugly heads. This one, I think everybody's aware by now, again, because this happened a couple days ago, but David Lynch has passed away at the age of 78. So many credits to, this list, Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet, you could Dune, Mulholland Drive, just so many things that he was involved with. But he's passed away. Unfortunately, I watched Twin Peaks at a probably way too young age.
Yeah.
Loved it. I thought it was a great show. And so I kind of, because it's so weird. By the way, did you watch Twin Peaks, Bigby?
Parts
of it.
I haven't watched the whole thing, but yeah.
Did you ever watch Darkwing Duck?
Yes.
Do you remember the Twin Peaks episode of Darkwing Duck?
I don't. I know I've caught references to things being wrapped in plastic and whatnot, like on different things.
Yeah.
Or they refer what was the character's name from the beginning that was the big mystery?
So Laura Palmer's the girl that dies, and then there's her father, whose first name escapes me at the moment, but yeah, and then there's Bob, who like lives in the woods or whatever.
Like, we got a real Laura Palmer here.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've watched that show, but parts of it will never escape me. But it's just funny, like thinking about stuff like that, like being a kid watching Darkwing Duck after school or whatever, and seeing them reference Twin Peaks, and I'm wondering, like, how many kids have no idea that this is in reference to Twin Peaks? And the whole episode is like a take on, like a parody of Twin Peaks, basically. But yeah, it's too bad that we lost somebody like David Lynch. I know there's a few movies I'm planning on rewatching that I haven't seen in a long time, just in honor of him. I want to rewatch Mulholland Drive because I haven't seen it in a long time. I want to rewatch the original Dune film because I haven't watched that in probably 15 or 20 years at this point. So yeah.
He really gosh, I can't think of the names out the actor, the guy from Dune who's also in Twin Peaks and
yeah, you did that thing where if you hadn't said that, I probably could have pulled the name, and now you said it. Kyle MacLachlan.
oh yeah, it's in a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. Obviously has a big affinity for him. Speaking of Showgirls, which is coming up in the chat, Kyle MacLachlan's in Showgirls too. So,
We saw Blue Velvet too young.
ooh, that one's even more scandalous. So Awesome Sauce is going to the AVNs this week. Looking forward to it. Also looking forward to visit Torpedo Comics. Yeah, that'd be fun.
There you go.
Order shops are out there. Nice. I hope you have a great time out there. Awesome Sauce. We a lot of great comic people are out in Vegas, so that's cool. Oh yeah, including Pop Sequentialism. Absolutely, makes sense.
Trav says we have to have a Dune party.
Ooh, the spice must flow.
Yes.
What's up, Kamikaze? Welcome.
Hey, what's up, man?
Always great to have you here. Alex says, loved Wild at Heart. That's not one I'm familiar with. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I have to rewatch. There's so many great movies that get
Yeah, that's true. There's so many classics that I feel terrible for never having watched, but I am working on it.
You know, one of the good things about like the old days when we had like Blockbuster Video and stuff, you would walk by all those movie cases and be like, seen it, and you could remember, just from the cover of the movie box, you'd be like, okay, oh yeah, and you get that flashes of what happened in that movie. You don't have that like little memorial to all the movies that you can walk through anymore,
Yeah. Terry's bringing up something that's going to come in very, very, this is a great comment, and I'm going to bring this back up, Terry, just so you know, we haven't gotten to our topic that was in the thumbnail yet, but that is a fantastic point.
Terry, I love your Jubilee icon. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's also very cool. That's really neat. I wonder who drew that.
Yeah, I was wondering I'm like, did you draw that? It looks like original art.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It almost looks like she's like anime or manga, like yelling too, instead of a bubble gum. In a way.
Yeah. I love the eyes. The eyes are great.
Yeah. Nice. Ooh, that's cool. I've been picking up some 4K UHDs recently, so that's pretty sweet.
There you go.
Red Chair says Dune Picard for the win. Yeah, he was Gurney Halleck, right?
Yeah. So, Dune Picard for the win. Excalibur Picard for the win.
Yeah, there you go. Man, Excalibur. So that's a movie I hadn't seen since, I think I'd seen parts of it when I was a kid. Excalibur is a weird one. Like going back and watching it today without having really remembered it as a kid is a very trippy kind of a movie.
I watched that. Probably that was another movie I watched way too young, probably, but I really loved that movie and just how that had a big effect on me too. And the song, the O Fortuna song, dun 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 dun.
Oh, it's epic! It's epic, and it was in so many like things after that too, right? Like, do want to take a second. Speaking of David Lynch passing away, do want to take a second to honor Mike Ferraro. For those that don't know, he passed away as well suddenly. Really big loss for the comic book community. So Mike was, as far as I know, maybe not the original owner, but one of the owners of Fat Jack's Comics, which is a very storied old comic book shop, one of the originals, that was kind of going through some hard times recently too, because of some health concerns, I think partially, where they had to kind of bring on some extra help and a few other things. But that is another big loss that we had in the comic book community, that I wanted to make sure we took a second to acknowledge. And heart goes out to his family and everybody affected by him. I know, Nick from Dynamite, that was his LCS. So definitely somebody that we've had a lot of connections with over the years, and I'm sure put a lot of, talking about new readers, probably put a lot of new comic books in people's hands for the first times over the years. So salute to his contributions to the comic book community.
You don't realize as a retailer the effect that you have on people until people talk to you about it years later. I've had people. I had a convention I went to where a bunch of little kids came up and started talking to me, or not. They were little kids back in the day. They're adults now who hold down big jobs and everything with different companies, and they said you were a safe space for us to come hang out, and you were like a father role model to us. And it's kind of like, you don't realize that you're just going about your day-to-day thing and having these relationships with people, but you don't realize the impact that you have on people until way later, and how special that is.
Man, that would be such a incredible thing to hear. I think as on one level, what you're doing as a comic book store owner, I'm sure, but on another level, you probably don't think about the years down the road ramifications like that. Like, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I started crying. And the one guy, he's holds down a position where he does a lot of like financial stuff and everything. But he's like, you taught me a lot of things about what it is to be fair to people and also to stand up for yourself in a negotiation or a lot of that kind of stuff. And because we did a lot of like trading of cards or trading of comics and that kind of stuff. So it was you don't realize that you're teaching kids these fundamentals of life, even though you are.
Yeah. No, that's incredible, man. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's truly, we were just talking we hung out yesterday, as I mentioned earlier, and that kind of came up when we went to a place that I'll do a little video on later. A lot of these people that are so important in our lives and we're staples in our community do pass away, and it's just one of these things where we have to just acknowledge their legacy and honor it and honor it by trying to do some of the things they did that were so powerful for us. There we go. Red Chair says, Bigby reignited my love of comics, then sold me thousands of them. Very good man who created space for strong opinions. Dude, that's awesome.
Marcus, my brother, we share the same birthday.
That's cool. Hey, thanks a lot for noticing that. Absolutely. I spend longer than I probably should trying to get stuff like that right. So that's cool. Thank you.
One of the positive column for you and one of the negative column for me. What's it going to take to get Bigby to put some of that background?
Hey, you know what? We're making iterations there. We've got you sounding better. We got you looking better.
That's right.
We'll just keep chipping away at it, man.
I'm gonna, trying to get a little more healthy this year. So looking better in another way.
There you go. Before I moved on to the next topic, I did want to say that we do have a couple shows coming up on the EXP, which, by the way, if you didn't catch me at the beginning of the show, we do stream on my channel. We stream on Bigby's channel as well. So you can catch us on both places. Comments might be coming in from both chats there. But we also are streaming over on the EXP, which is a fantastic comic book network. There's a lot of new shows on the EXP, and you can catch a lot of them tomorrow. I need to actually go check out some of these shows myself. I wanted to talk about a couple of them real fast before we move on to our next topic. You can check out Comic Industry Insiders at 3 Eastern, 2 Central. That would be 12 Pacific on the EXP tomorrow. And you can also check out Minute to Skim It later on in the day at 7 Eastern and 6 Central. I'm going to mention a couple other shows coming out later in the night, a little bit later on in the show. But those are 2 shows. If you're watching, looking for some comic book content tomorrow, you can go check those out in the afternoon or early evening. And go get some comic on. I love Minute to Skim It. Very familiar with that show. I'm excited to finally sit down and catch an episode of the Comic Industry Insiders. So go check those out over on the EXP.
Yes.
And there you go. Hit that like button. Richard, I love it.
Please.
Yeah, and I saw that comment. You got a metal fish on the wall. And it's a cool one, too.
It is, yeah.
I think maybe having that framed art kind of leaning up against it maybe almost kind of takes away from it a little bit because you kind of don't see the bottom of it, but
I can move it around.
We'll play with it. When you do appreciate the people in our lives while we love them, I've learned that over the last couple of years, time goes way too fast. Yeah. Yep. You getting, I'm in my 40s, starting to get to that age where you start to realize there's more people passing away that we've either followed or paid attention to, or were our heroes, or, just people that we knew. There's that saying that you start to get more invitations to funerals than weddings at some point.
That came up on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's getting Bigby has a very healthy skin tone happening, like he's getting RHE.
I don't know what RHE is.
I thought it was the maybe, but yeah, I thought you cut off a word. But hey, maybe you're getting the vitamin D. I don't know.
No, I'm Native American, and in the summertime I will start looking like I'm Hispanic because I work outside a lot. So I'll start looking real dark.
Because
Big mouth fat. There we go. Yep.
So I do want to make sure we tackle our other news stories before we get on to our topic. Let's see. I think I had one more. Oh, actually, I guess two more. This is kind of a little bit of a quicker one because it just got resolved. Literally, like I think about half an hour before the show started. So can't believe we're going to talk about the TikTok ban for a second, but we kind of have to, for a weird reason. So a really popular game with comic book fans, especially Marvel fans, is Marvel Snap. And an interesting thing happened where, the TikTok ban happened. I think most people are kind of have heard of that at least, or they're aware it happened. It's since been overturned or whatever.
It's been lifted, right?
Yeah. So even that is kind of a short story in itself. That's probably going to have repercussions at some point, I imagine. But in Marvel Snap, I went to go log in because they're doing like a daily rewards thing. And I was like, oh, I want to get my, you're saving up for like a special border for your cards or whatever is what you're going to get at the end. And I was like, I want to log in and get that. And I got a message. It was this message right here. Sorry, Marvel Snap isn't available right now. A law banning Marvel Snap has been enacted in the U.S. Unfortunately, that means you can't use Marvel Snap for now. Rest assured, we're working to restore our service in the U.S. Please stay tuned. This was very surprising, and this ended up happening to a handful of apps out there. Just did not expect this at all. It's one of those things where I just assumed that it would affect TikTok, right? Like that would be the only thing that would end up having anything to do with any of that stuff. But no, sure enough. You couldn't play Marvel Snap for a while.
Wouldn't you be like in total panic mode if that was your business and you just came into work that morning and it's like, what's going on? We just got totally taken off the grid for what? Without any warning. I mean, yikes.
So apparently somebody who knows more about it than I do replied on something where I kind of talked about it briefly or posted that link. And they said that one of the parent companies is also the parent company that owns TikTok, apparently. So they got included with that. And a few stray apps also got hit with it. There was a video editing app for Instagram called CapCut that got affected for a while as well.
Oh, did CapCut go down? I didn't even know that.
I think these were all temporary. And like I said, they had probably varying hurdles to jump through to get back online. But when the ban was lifted or whatever, I know Snap, like I said, about half an hour before we started the show, I got a message saying it's back. I didn't actually try to log in when I got that message because I was in the middle of something, but I did get the notification. So it's probably back. I imagine they're probably on top of that, along with, those other apps I was talking about that might be affected. But it's a weird 2025, man. It's a weird year.
Right.
Let's see here.
Mr. Nope.
You're on Bigby's right. Okay, cool. We'll make sure we hit that everywhere. What is FS? EXP? Probably EXP. Yeah. So the EXP is a comic book YouTube channel. They're also on Facebook, Twitch. They're on Instagram as well, and X. And it's essentially almost like a network of comic book related content. So they have things like Nick Brucci hosts an original art show every Friday that's really popular, where they sell original comic book art. So if you want to get, they've had crazy, big name artists, Mark Bagley, John Romita Senior stuff on there, all kinds of crazy stuff. You can go buy that. They've also had like a lot of good introductory cheap pages. If you want to start your art collection, a lot of people have gotten their first art page to that show. So that's one of the kind of shows they have. They have shows like us. We're streaming on there right now. So they have comic book like talk shows, I guess you could call it, or news shows. And they also have a lot of comic book claim sales shows. One of the shows I mentioned earlier is Minute to Skim It, where they talk about new comic book releases that are coming up. So lots of different comic book content with lots of different hosts and personalities. Pretty much not every day of the week, but most every day of the week, they'll have different programming lineups that you can go watch. The link is in our description. You can also just search for the EXP or the Experience on YouTube and navigate to the channel that way. But it is a fantastic channel that I've been a part of it for a while now. I really recommend a lot of their content, so definitely go check it out. Hang the art on the wall. Hang the art on
my art over to the
Well, you got the shelf going up, so you got it covered. The Kevin Smith movie, when you get into your late 40s or 50s, you have more days behind you than you do ahead of you. It's sad, but it's true. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Not me. I'm going to live to 200.
Richard coming in with the politics talks, which I personally think we can all identify with on some level, but I'm just going to move by because we don't really discuss that on this show. Terry says that's interesting. Makes you wonder what the shareholders wonder who the shareholders on all those VPN sites. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Marvel Snap got snapped.
Thanos, I'm inevitable.
Mr. Nope is native too. Summer tan is dark, and I've been mistaken for local when in Central America.
In the summertime, I work with a lot of Latino crews, and they just assume that I'm Hispanic. They come up and start talking to me in Spanish.
What's the difference between Marvel Snap and Marvel Rivals? They're both games. Marvel Snap is a kind of like a card fighting game. You know, you collect cards and they have different abilities and they have different lanes with different locations that have different random effects that interact with those cards. So it's kind of like a strategy card fighting game. Rivals is like the best competitor that I can think of to it is Overwatch. It's a hero-based shooter game, a real-time shooter, third person shooter.
Right.
A lot of TikTokers make their living there. They really do lose their livelihood in an instant before the 30-day extension. Yeah, that's true. Like I've kind of made light of the TikTok ban a little bit. Oh, good to know. No more X. Thank you very much for that update, by the way. I'll stop mentioning that one. You guys, you still have your account, right? Like you don't stream there, but you have an account. I don't know. Maybe you deleted that too. Let me know. But yeah, a lot of people, do make money through things like that. Just like people make money through Instagram and people make money through Facebook. And, I don't want
anybody referring to that, what I said, like, imagine waking up and being unexpectedly gone. Like,
yeah,
but TikTok, they knew it was coming. There was a countdown to this is going to happen nonetheless.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I heard a thing on the radio of like a great Saturday Night Live skit where he's like, what am I going to do now when I get bored during the movie? And the guy's like, you watch the rest of the movie. But even during the boring parts.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that with boring parts of movies.
Remember life without TikTok.
Want to point out Skunk Snot is talking up yet another great show on the EXP, which is Sketch Up with Mog and Mel, where it's kind of like people know the term drink and draw. I don't want to emphasize the drink part, but it's kind of like that. It's like a live drawing, live sketching kind of a show. It's pretty cool. So
the art hangout.
Yeah, there you go. I always want to default to drink and draw because I know that's like a really common term for that. But yeah, there you go. That's a good way to put it. Exactly. Un poco. So I wanted to take a minute to mention this story. It's pretty cool one. Depending on your point of view. So I guess some people will think it's the exact opposite of that. But Dan Slott has been a writer for Marvel for a very long time. Now he has written stories for DC before, but he is coming to the new, what's it called? I think it was called Superman Ultimate? Superman Unlimited. It's a new series launching from DC in May. First issue is going to be out May 21st. And it's sounded pretty ambitious. There's going to be a lot of like kryptonite heading to Earth, and there's going to be pretty much everybody's going to have access to kryptonite. So it's going to create some real problems for Superman, obviously. I think this is neat. Like I'm actually kind of on board with this because the current Superman continuity is sort of hard to get into for me because I haven't been reading it for a long time. Not since like probably the early 2000s. So this is like kind of seems like they're trying to go on for a new like onboarding point with this kind of, and I'm willing to kind of maybe dip my toe in and check it out. I'd like to see Dan Slott write something other than Spider-Man for a little while. So, I think he's a talented writer. I think, some people have problems with the stories and I totally understand that, but I think he's a talented writer. And if he switches up his character for a while, like I liked his She-Hulk run. That was really good. Yeah, I'm excited. We think you're going to check that one out, or are you probably going to wait and see what the reviews say?
I'll listen to what you guys have to say about it. I know Travis had been really enjoying the Superman run recently. He was telling me a lot of the highlights of the stories that were going on. So the regular Superman book, he told me he was really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's I guess here's one thing you could do. You could always check out Minute to Skim It and see what they say about it too. That's another way to check it out. Kind of take it back.
Well, I know Jay would say something great about Superman, right?
Well, I mean, but he's a big Superman fan, so maybe he'd be highly critical.
It's true. Some of the biggest fans are the most critical of the property.
Actually, yeah, Jay, if you get a second in chat, let me know what you think about that. Are you excited for this, or are you kind of like, do you have excitement to see Dan Slott writing Superman? I know you're a big fan.
There you go, Travis. Joshua Williamson. He's really, really a fan of that.
Okay, there you go. Oh, I think I should have mentioned that too. I think was it Raphael Albuquerque that's doing the art on this? Yeah, Raphael Albuquerque is the one doing the art on this, which a lot of people know him from, like American Vampire was kind of where he kind of blew up, I think, the most. Kind of a little bit more stylized art, but yeah, should be interesting. It should be interesting to check that out too. I'm kind of curious about that.
Getting a lot of love for Joshua Williamson.
Strong possibility that Dan Slott's Mr. Negative appears in the Spider-Man 4 movie. Yeah, I've heard some rumors about that for a while. I don't know. Mr. Negative would be an interesting one. I want to see more classic Spider-Man villains because I feel like we just haven't gotten them in the MCU. So that's me.
Because they want to make movies about them.
Well, but apparently that's never been holding. That was part of that whole deal that came out, is that really wasn't holding anybody back from using those characters. Right. I don't know. Maybe there's more to that that we still.
I did watch that last night.
Oh, Craven.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I have thoughts. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
but it's not Craven.
Okay. Yeah. He's a mark. He'll love it. Miss Jin gets the major companies. I'll definitely let you know when I get a hold of it. Oh yeah, fair enough. I'm sure you'll read it, day one though. Awesome Sauce says Dan has done a lot of great work for Marvel over the last 25 or so years. His Ren and Stimpy is amazing. I forgot he did that. Wow.
A lot of those guys put their dues in doing those licensed titles.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I'll have to check that out. I've got a couple of those lying around somewhere.
Powdered Toast Man.
It's been so long since I've thought about like Ren and Stimpy other than just I saw some Ren and Stimpy cards. Remember West Coast Avengers had that box of cards I got from them? There were some Ren and Stimpy cards in there.
I think that's that I saw something about that from Slott, like that the Powdered Toast Man special is the first time he got to write Spider-Man.
Right, because he's in that issue. Yep. That's cool. The Russell Crowe character was okay.
Yes.
Interesting. I need to watch it. I've been just kind of I haven't been super.
No, it wasn't bad. I mean, but knowing the characters the way that I know the characters, it was like, yeah, that's not Craven.
Well, with our news stories behind us, chat can always, derail us, and we're welcome to that. We're going to kind of move into our primary topic for the night, which is probably you saw it in the thumbnail. I'm going to highlight Terry's comment again because I had that starred to save for later. It's kind of what we're talking about here is the recommendations for new readers. And Terry said, "Yep, you don't suggest Stranger in a Strange Land as the first Heinlein book to read. you get them to read the younger people stories first. It's a great point. Ironically, though, I think Stranger in Strange Land is the second Heinlein novel I actually read after Starship Troopers, but it's a good point.
That's some great breakdowns of Starship Troopers, the motion picture Starship Troopers, but how they really played up things that weren't necessarily parts of the novel, or maybe, yeah. So
I think Starship Troopers is a fascinating adaptation. Personally, one that I really have some mixed feelings on. Like, I love the movie, but I'm one of those people that really likes literal and faithful adaptations of things. And it's not very faithful. It captures a lot of the essence.
It's not Craven.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. It's no Craven. It's no Craven.
I mean, no, but what you say, it's not faithful to the character, right? But it's enjoyable as its own work. But it's not really a good representation.
Exactly. I want to pull up this post actually that inspired this conversation real fast. Give me one moment to share the screen there. So this is I went to go follow Daniel Kibblesmith on X. But it's a protected account, so I can't see the original tweet. But this is where I saw the tweet. You can see my reply there. Atomic Comics posted this, which I thought was a really cool post and worthy of some conversation. And this comment from Daniel is, a lot of comic fans will get asked what a new reader's first comic book should be and suggest Watchmen or Dark Knight, meaning Dark Knight Returns, or Kingdom Come, when their own actual first comic was part 9 of 17 of the most confusing X-Men story ever. A more accurate sampling that also hooked them for life. And Atomic Comics, to their credit, this is the comment that they left on that post. Yep, I know many of you started in the middle of something and had mostly no idea what was going on. Comics are always a little confusing, a little infuriating, and a lot wonderful. And I had a lot of thoughts on this. I think it's a really cool conversation to have about recommending comics to people. And I've seen so many posts on like Reddit or different types of social media where people are like, hey, I'm looking to get somebody into comic books, or what would be a good gift for somebody who says they enjoyed the MCU and they want to get into reading comic books or whatever. And you see recommendations like those things, like Kingdom Come, like Dark Knight Returns, like Watchmen. And it's funny because for a lot of people, those are their favorite stories, right? But I would, the Heinlein example that we got from Chad is great. I would also maybe compare it to like a refined palate when it comes to things like wine or something like that. Like, you're not going to drink something that is extremely nuanced and enjoy it if you're not used to drinking wine, and there's a million examples you could do that for. And I think it's fascinating because part of the post is more about, it's not about a coherent single graphic novel style story. It's, you just picked up something and started reading it. And that's true too, in my opinion. But it's also, it's funny because those stories that get recommended, what do Watchmen, what do Watchmen, The Dark Knight Returns, and Kingdom Come all have in common?
Dystopian dark takes on the characters.
Yeah, there's subversions or takedowns of those characters that you have to kind of know. What is Batman? What is Batman normally? What was Batman in the
Dark
60s?
Knight doesn't have the
80s?
same effect if you don't know who Batman is, and the lighter side of Batman, even in the campy stuff, and so it's like the lighter side of Batman. There's a quote. Yeah. But hey, Chaos Prime.
Hey, what's up? How's it going, Chaos Prime? Like you can totally. I think if you are an intelligent reader, I think you can definitely read many of these stories and enjoy them. But are you necessarily going to enjoy them as much as you would if you had the exposure to the rest of, the pantheon of Batman or comic books, superhero comic books, to read Watchmen and understand what Watchmen's trying to say? Maybe.
I think there's a lot of like, your Watchmen, when you're reading Watchmen, there's a lot of like reading between the lines of like what it's referring to, and even like kind of like, oh, you're seeing those Charlton characters for many people the first time, so you're like, oh, that's really Batman, that's really Superman, that's really, so you're kind of getting that kind of take as well. But so I read that Watchmen came out, I was like in my early teens, and so I read that at face value. I didn't really understand a lot of it. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't until way later that I really understood all of the intricacies that were involved in that storyline. So
yeah, and I think that's, kind of in a way, I'm jumping in this conversation kind of in the middle, but that's part of what the post talks about, and so I think it's kind of what's on the surface there in some ways.
I think what Jay just said kind of bounces off what you and I were saying yesterday in the driveway when we were talking about when we said, like, when somebody says, hey, I want to start watching movies, and we're saying, like, so Jay is kind of saying what we were like joking about, where we're like, oh, well, then you need to watch Citizen Kane, and you need to watch all the classic references to film.
Yeah.
No, not real. That's not. I mean, yeah, when you become a big film buff, maybe, but to enjoy films or enjoy movies, that's not necessary. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting question for sure, and I have some takes on it, and I know you do, because we started. But like, we need to save this for the show.
Lord of Brooklyn is pointing out that my refined taste is for Mad Dog 2020. I'll take that with pride to a certain extent, because you know what? There's a lot of junk comic books that I will gladly read. It might be the Mad Dog 2020 of comic books, but I'm also a big fan of the other stuff too. And I think that it's one of those things where here's how I'll phrase this. I think this is a good way to start my side of this little topic here.
Okay.
When I started reading comic books, it was stuff that was lying around at my dad's parents' place, my grandparents, like the old comic books that him and his brothers had when they were kids. So like Sad Sack and Beetle Bailey. I've talked about this before. And I mean, I didn't really necessarily like get deep into them, but I checked them out. And then after that, I was getting G.I. Joe comic books from my dad, because I was into G.I. Joe the cartoon, and I was into G.I. Joe the toys. And then when I started getting into comic books to the point where like I was personally going and seeking them out, it's because I was interested in things like X-Men the animated series. I was interested in Batman the animated series. And so I went to comic shops and I started looking for X-Men comics and Batman comics. And I didn't go up to the LCS owner and say, what X-Men comic should I read? And maybe I should have, but I was intimidated. I mean, I walked into a comic book shop for the first time, and just was like, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna start looking through comic. There are X-Men over here. Okay, what looks good? Okay, I'm grabbing this one. And I think the first X-Men comic book I grabbed was X-Men Uncanny X-Men 280. It's like the end of a freaking story arc. It's the end of the little Muir Island saga thing that happens. It's a confusing as hell story that you would have to have a lot of understanding of like the previous like 50 or 60 issues of X-Men to completely understand. And yet I kept buying more comic books. You get familiar with the medium, you look at the art, you get familiar with how word balloons work and dialogue and thought balloons and narrative boxes, and all that stuff was a little bit more nuanced and layered for me compared to what I'd been reading before, and kind of just going through and looking at stuff. And so that's the idea that like, if somebody says they want to get into reading comic books because they like Spider-Man and they've loved the movies and they want to read some Spider-Man, a suggestion that I think is totally worthwhile is, hey, why don't you go grab the newest issue of Spider-Man, or why don't you go to a comic book shop and just look for a cool cover or look for something that speaks to you. Right. Maybe it's a Spider-Man with, Venom on the cover or something like that because you like Venom, or whatever it is. Right. Maybe you just think the art's cool, or something about it is unique. Or maybe you think that the text on the cover is really cool. That's totally fine. I think none of us are, if you really want to read comic books, like Terry just made a comment, you can't destroy the wall either. There are tons of great stories in the cheap boxes. Right. Yeah. Go digging through a long box at a comic book shop or wherever, and grab something and check it out. Or, I mean, I'm kind of dating ourselves right now. There's lots of digital ways to read comic books now, Marvel Unlimited or just, digital copies, that kind of stuff. I think people can check out comic books through their library. it doesn't even have to hurt your wallet. You can just go kind of thumb through and find out what's interesting there. And I think the library method works for a lot of people where they can check out like digital copies and read that way. So there you go. Lots of ways to get into comic books, but so I guess for that part of it, do you have anything to say about my little suggestions there, or like how I got into it?
I mean, yeah, my thing was, getting into it, spinner rack, I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Well, we're going to tell the origin of Snake Eyes. Cool. I want to find out about that. And then, my whole side hustle thing where I would trade gum for comics and stuff. And eventually I was like, hey, well, I'm going to read this. And I think part of the journey of reading comics is kind of discovering things and learning the history of things and having a take about like what's going on in those titles. You're going, oh, that's why that happened, or he said that to him in that other issue. You're like, oh, there's a history here. Or like, my first X-Men that I read was X-Men 175, which it's a great fake out Return of Phoenix issue.
Yeah.
And I remember the scene where the Avengers are like calling the X-Men like, we need your help. Jean Grey has returned, and Captain America gets disintegrated. And I was like, isn't he a really big, important character? I was like blown away. But I didn't really know a whole lot about Captain America, but I knew he was an important character in the Marvel universe. So just like learning those little intricacies on your own and kind of understanding them are kind of fun. And like you said, like that post said, you jumped into some big crossover. Really, all of comics is some big, intricate storyline woven together of giant tapestry that you're going to start learning all the different branches of, so
even if they're not connected via like a continuity, it's a unique medium that has like its own rules and customs and conventions that, and I don't mean comic book conventions like physical places you go to. I mean like conventions of storytelling, like Captain America being disintegrated, in that issue. It's like, oh, come to find out that's actually like totally normal in comic books.
Yeah, a fake out like that is totally normal. But when I read that for the first time, I was like, did I just see the death of Captain America on that page?
Right. Yeah. And it, I think sometimes as older comic book readers, we get a little cynical or jaded about things like that. And it's like, we forget like it's nothing new, like we've been seeing that stuff for years.
But to a new reader, it's exciting.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And I mean, if you think about it from every page should have some kind of an impact on the reader, kind of a perspective. Like, sure, punches should come a mile a minute. Lots of great stuff in chat. I want to make sure we get to some of it. Zach's in here saying that he read Man of Steel in a random barbershop at age 7. That's cool. Yeah. That's cool, man. Love it. Love to see that. And also welcome to the chat, Zach. I don't think I saw a message from you before, so welcome to the show. Jay asked me, was it the cover of that X-Men that grabbed you, or was it really just a random grab? It was actually the cover, because my favorite character from the animated series, and I think it seemed like a few episodes at that point, I gravitated towards Cyclops because I didn't know Cyclops very well. I think there was, I can't remember if the arcade game was actually out at that point or not. But I think maybe I'd played the arcade game, like the beat 'em up arcade game. And he seemed like a cool character in that. There was some game that he was in, like some Nintendo game or something at least. And then in the beginning of the X-Men cartoon, there's the whole thing with Jubilee where she's getting chased by the Sentinels, and then Cyclops blasts the head off the Sentinel. I was like, whoa, that dude looks super powerful. And so there's a shot on, I'm pretty sure it's Uncanny X-Men 280, where he's like holding Professor Xavier and he's like looking up and like just blasting, and Professor Xavier looks dead. And another classic fake out, right? Right. And it's a Pyrrhic victory is the text on the cover, which was actually a term I knew from my history class. So I thought, oh, that's like educational and stuff, man. I should grab that one, or whatever. I just thought it was like highfalutin or whatever.
Made you feel smart.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing too, is I pointed out, this is a slight tangent, but I point out to so many people that are resistant to reading comic books. I learned a lot of vocabulary from comic books, man. Like,
Right.
you read Beast in 30, 40 issues of X-Men, you're going to learn some words.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but obviously plenty of other comics too do that. It's not just exclusive to Beast, but indubitably. So Jay said that he almost thought it was more of a Four Loko. I've never had Four Loko. If you really want to know, my drink of choice, I don't drink very often, would be something like a Manhattan. Is kind of my drink of choice. But I'm not a big drinker. I drink like maybe 5 or 6 times a year, probably. I did have a Moscow Mule the other night, so that was my quarterly drink.
I drink like every other year.
Yeah,
but I usually drink like like a screwdriver or something that's got fruity taste to it.
Oh, there you
I
go.
don't want to drink gasoline.
So you don't want to drink Four Loko? I mean, I haven't drank it,
No,
but that's kind of what I hear.
Is a kind of a fruity. It's a fruity canned alcohol.
Isn't it like an energy drink, basically?
That's an alcoholic energy drink.
Yeah. Okay. Folks, we're talking about TikTok and Four Loko. We are your new home for hip talk. Pop Sequentialism is pointing out DeMatteis, Giffen, McGuire, Justice League is a good hook.
That's a Wahaha Justice League.
Yeah. No,
really
it's actually
good series.
Great run, great recommendation. Comics Limited said he ran into this issue with Planetary. I love Planetary and shared it with a friend. He read it, and it was like I felt like I needed to. He said he felt like he needed to understand comics and sci-fi before they read this. That's a great point.
I shared Planetary with somebody, and they just totally didn't get it. I was like,
Awesome Sauce Mad Dog 2020 is, I think it's just basically like hooch wine, basically like a fruity like a fruity wine kind of drink. I actually don't think I've ever had it. I've had like Boone's Farm, which I think is kind of similar. This is back when I was like 21, man. This is, I'll say for the purposes of YouTube, this is when I was 21. I'll say for the other, I had facial hair when I was like 14, so I'll just pretend like I needed to be 21 to buy Boone's Farm. Fortified wine. There we go. Good way to put it. Learned my love of classical music from Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
That and my distrust for anything made by Acme. Fair point.
Awesome.
I want to try that.
Oh,
Apple pie moonshine.
I've had some apple pie moonshine before. It's pretty good. Yeah,
I definitely want to try that. The Manhattan is the chaser for Bronze Age's grape, Mad Dog 2020. But so I'm a classic enough G.I. Joe fan that if I'm drinking grape Mad Dog 2020, I'd have to have some chocolate donuts with it, because that's what the Dreadnoks would do.
Dreadnoks,
yeah.
Awesome Sauce. I like your suggestions. Those are good.
I'll ask when I get to the Nerd Bar in Vegas. I'll ask
the one above that, or the two above, two awesome sauces above that.
What is Mad Dog 2020?
No, I was suggesting.
There we go.
Yeah, any issue of Marvel Tales, Batman Year One, and John Byrne FF.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that with the Frank Miller Daredevil, the like John Byrne FF, or Batman Year One, or if you recommended John Byrne and Alpha Flight, or I mean, and the thing is that at that time where comic books were being made, single issues were definitely more. It was a complete story still. Even if it was part of a larger narrative, you still usually had a complete story in that single issue.
Right.
So you might want to read the next issue, of course, or pick up the previous ones or whatever. But you still would have like, there was a fight in this comic book. They met the character they were going to fight. They fought them, and they lost, and now they're going to regroup and go try to fight them again. That's
there's a cliffhanger, and we have a little tiny piece of something that's going to relate later on.
Dan is confused. So in the G.I. Joe lore, the Dreadnoks, which were a Australian biker gang,
Right.
Always liked grape soda and chocolate covered donuts.
Right.
I don't know why. We'd have to. You know what? Larry Hama and Sissy's been asked everything about G.I. Joe. Maybe he hasn't been
I
asked
think
that.
probably this is a really terrible pairing, and it was like,
oh yeah. But I have to ask him like how he came up with that combination next time I talk to him.
Probably because he had it once and was like, "Oh my god, this is awful."
But this is, I was at the dumb age of a kid enough that I remember. Folks, buckle up. This is going to be a story. My dad was a forester, and so every once in a while I get a chance to go out with him, like during summer or during like a school break or whatever, and go out and drive like on forest roads with him. And I thought it would be cool to buy a grape soda and chocolate covered donuts because I had one of my G.I. Joe comics with me and I was reading it. And I was like, that'd be fun. He's like, "Hey, what do you want for a snack?" And I said that. And I think he looked at me like I was insane, but I was also a young enough kid that kind of makes sense that they would request that. Right.
Right.
Well, the thing you don't know about forest roads is that aren't paved, by the way, is they're very bouncy. Mm-hmm. And if you drive around on enough of them in an old rickety truck, where you're not trying to go slow or steady, it's going to bounce your stomach contents around quite a bit. And it's possible that if you eat enough grape soda and chocolate donuts, you might throw up. And that is, if you think it sounds bad going down, it's worse coming up.
That's hilarious.
Oh boy.
It's funny you got to ride around with him doing that. I got to ride around with my dad. He was a log truck driver. So
yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, not very similar,
Yep.
100%. So yeah, back to our topic. Bronze learned about suspension that day. Cracks me up. Yeah, dude, nothing wrong with chocolate donuts. There's nothing wrong with chocolate donuts. Pop Sequentialism says Batman was mostly single serving stories with the occasional 2-issue story until year 1, which stretched out to 4 issues. So anything before the 90s is a good opt-in point for Batman. And I think that along those lines, honestly, there's some great recommendations there, but also just grabbing that random issue. Like literally for the thumbnail, I took 2 of the stories that were talked about in the original post, which are Dark Knight and Watchmen. Those are the 2 I grabbed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I just went and literally grabbed 2 random modern comic. Like I grabbed like the random new issue of Absolute Batman because it's kind of hot right now. And then I grabbed the random like cover for a new issue of Spider-Man. It just so happened to have Peter smooching Black Cat, which I thought was kind of cool too. But and hey, I mean, that's the kind of thing that you walk into a comic book store and you're like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Some action.
Yeah. That sells some comic books, man. That's what covers are all about.
You played Cold Slither, you would have been thrown out of the truck. G.I. Joe references.
Oh man. People, there's 2 kinds of people in the chat. People who are totally with this and people who are confused as hell. Right. Is why we're talking about this. Cold Slither. That episode holds up, by the way. I watched it recently. It holds up. But yeah, I'd argue that like random issues are totally fine.
Right.
And if you're really, if somebody's actually asking you for help and you want to steer them to some stuff, that's fine too. I think the ultimate moral of that story is you don't necessarily have to steer them to the magnum opuses of comic books. You don't have to, here's, Alex Ross's The Marvels. And this is, look, if you read Alex Ross's Marvels, you are going to think it's interesting. At the very least, you're going to think the art is even if it's not your style, you're going to think it's exceptional or noteworthy in some way. But are you going to appreciate it the same way as somebody who's been reading Marvel comics for 10 years and is kind of like understanding that how it's sort of a reimagining of sort of like, the contextualizing, the recontextualizing of the origins of Marvel superheroes and the person on the street looking at these heroes. Maybe it's possible, but I don't think it'll be the same as somebody who's been, reading 20 random issues of Spider-Man recently. We'll kind of think about it.
I think you have to have like some qualifying questions, like you have to put yourself aside and like not have your biases. You have to, like, when I was doing retail, I would ask people like, okay, well, they'd be like, what would you recommend? Like, I'm just going to be able to instantly like tell them what to read. And I'd say, let's start with some questions like, what kind of movies do you like? What kind of television shows do you like? And up above in my store, I had a lot of posters and stuff. Like, what kind of art up here appeals to you? What do you like up here? You know, and so you start asking a few questions and that kind of stuff. You know, are you into horror? Are you into sci-fi? Are you into, you know, and so then maybe for the one person, The Walking Dead would be a great referral, right? But for somebody else, like Scott Pilgrim would be a great referral. Yeah. You know, so it's like you've got to really put aside your own personal, like Travis and I were both just saying, like we referred Planetary to somebody that we because we loved it, and they were just like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like you really have to put away like your own, die to self and serve the customer.
Yeah, like if somebody is like a fan of like horror or something like that, like you could recommend a hot new comic book, like Something Is Killing the Children or something like that, like depending on what kind of stuff they like.
Well, that'd be a great horror recommendation.
Yeah, because it's a self-contained story. It doesn't there's not too much or really almost any elements that you have to understand the medium of comic books for. So you can kind of get into that.
That's funny. Marcus is somebody I recommended Planetary to, and he did not enjoy it.
There you go.
Red chair.
There you go. Yeah, it's absolutely one of those things where I think that, you know, there's good recommendations out there, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying you couldn't recommend like a number one issue or the beginning of a story or a graphic novel or something like that. I hope because I know I've said some things that are kind of counter to that, but you can definitely do that too if you're having that conversation with somebody. And I think that's where those qualifying questions, that's what we talked about yesterday, is that definitely comes in is, you know, if somebody's like kind of curious to give it a shot, but they really want to read a good story they're going to like, that's where those questions can come in handy. I think, you know, asking like, their favorite kind of movie or TV show, or what are your favorite, you know, novelists? Like what kind of stories do you like to read in novel format? And you might be able to come up with, you know, maybe if they like something,
come up with an author that's written a novel that they like that does comics.
Yeah. Yep. And that definitely can be some crossover there. You know, I'm sure there's people that started reading comic books because they're big Stephen King fans and they love the Dark Tower comic books, or, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely want to highlight some of this chat we're getting here. Figure Drawing says, shout out to Danger Girl, if it hasn't been mentioned. That's actually a really good point. A lot of stuff in the 90s.
That's a fun book.
Yeah. You know, Danger Girl, Gen 13, probably more of a snapshot in time for that, especially for Gen 13. But at that time, a lot of people I know at school were reading Gen 13 that didn't read other comic books. You know, that's kind of one of those things where you can kind of capture that kind of moment. Dan says, early 90s Chuck Dixon anything. I find a run of his good for newbies because his writing is consummately cinematic. That's a really good point. Yeah. Comics Limited wants to point out that The Viper is coming 3 p.m. on Tuesday. That's another G.I. Joe reference. People are going to be confused. I'm wearing a freaking Cobra shirt too. That's the best part about this. Sicko says, the most annoying thing in comics is that old people in comics don't talk about comics. They say, nah, comics aren't good. Let me tell you about comics when comics were good. And the dude pulls out Karl Barks. Bro, come on. Yeah, I mean, the trick is there's so many good comics from pretty much every generation of comics that I can think of that are still applicable today. You know, depends on the person. Like, would I recommend Platinum Age stuff to somebody who's starting to read comic books right now? Probably not. But would I necessarily grab just the brand new issue and put it in their hands? Maybe not. It really depends on the reader. I think that's kind of the ultimate thing. To your point, Psychotron, yeah, there's a lot of people that just want to be negative and just want to grouse about stuff. I think we're in the camp, you know, on this panel that we want more readers in comic books. We want people to enjoy comic books. And I think to your point, also the biggest thing out there really is that people forget that there's plenty of comic books out there. There's probably something for everybody. Even the people that complain about there not being any new good comic books, there's probably comic books out there that if they actually read them, they'd like them, as long as they read them with an open mind. But whatever.
That Marcus, Marcus liked girls. That was one that I referred him to.
Oh,
you like
girls!
Horror, you like horror and sci-fi and sexy naked ladies? There you
go. So Dan says he would ask prospective vinyl buyers, "What's your mood inclination?" As in, what do you do? You want something to match your current mood, or something completely different to change your mood? That's actually a really good one. I like that.
That's a good question. Yeah. I would say too that like the question that they ask could be there's two, like what would you recommend that I read is a different question than what do you like? What do you like to read? Those are two different questions.
Yep. And Lord of Brooklyn's kind of echoing what you would ask customers, and that kind of conversation you're talking about, what movies they like. Uncle Scrooge is a Duck by Carl Parks, and it's awesome. Yep, agreed. Yeah. No, nothing but love.
My son is not a big comics person. I mean, you'd think he would be, but I gave him some Carl Barks books when he was little, and he loves Carl Barks, Uncle Scrooge, and Donald Duck. That's like his thing. So.
Yeah, my daughter was just reading. She was reading some Bugs Bunny. Yesterday. We'll talk about this a lot more in another video, or mostly me, I guess. You have a cameo in it, but picked up some Golden Age and some Gold Key and just random Archie stuff. But my daughter was reading Sylvester and Tweety and Bugs Bunny and all that kind of stuff from Gold Key earlier. Yeah, she was having a good time. So, Peter David, big crossover writer. Yeah, true.
Chat is blowing up.
Yeah, trying to keep up here. Bigby Superpower was linking his customers to books they would like. Yep.
I would always throw, like, for my subscribers, because I knew what books they liked. I was like, hey, you should try this out. I would just be like, this, and I would put a post in, like, you didn't sign up for this, but suggestion, if you don't like it, bring it back.
Yeah, there you go. Cherry Comics. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, is I think you mean like Cherry Pop-Tart and stuff, right? Yeah,
for the right reader. Yes, for the right reader.
For the right reader, 100%. Oh, dude, I forgot. Brandon's in the chat. Brandon literally has the Cyclops from the cover I'm talking about.
That's the cover, right? Yep.
I always forget that
victory
that's coming around. Terminator's current run is nice. Scarlet Witch current run, yeah, there you go. I mean, they like I know we had Chaos Prime in here earlier. Maybe he's still around. Loves Transformers. The new Transformers comics are great. There's a good thing you could read.
I'd say a good run for Spider-Man was the old Ultimate Spider-Man run.
Oh yeah, 100%
for new readers.
Speaking of Bendis and Bagley, and and heck, even the new one is it's a little bit of a deconstruction in some ways, but it's still good.
Yeah, the original Ultimate Spider-Man was great, just for like, hey, if you never read Spider-Man but you like the concept of the character, here's a modernization of his whole thing.
Awesome Sauce recommends some Bendis stuff like Jessica Jones and Daredevil. Yeah, I mean, Jessica Jones is a really good one too. And Daredevil, of course, but I think the Jessica Jones rises to that level where it's like interesting enough for people that maybe aren't already into comic books, because it's a little bit different kind of a story, but it's still superhero related, and Marvel. Yeah, and somebody mentioned that this was a good topic because of the Rivals stuff going on right now, which I hadn't really even thought about that, but until we actually already had the topic set. This whole Rivals thing is fascinating. A lot of people are getting into Rivals. If you're not familiar with Rivals, I mentioned it earlier. It's a video game similar to like a team-based strategy shooter like Overwatch, where you can basically play as some of the coolest Marvel characters, like really stylized, interesting interpretations of them. It's a little more anime fusion kind of, and people are really getting into it. The comic books are taking off. People are coming to Marvel comic books because of it. I think it's a fascinating how we're seeing kind of an infusion of people interested in comic books, and obviously comic fans who are into Marvel comic books are having a good time with it too. But also just a lot of video game fans. Kind of, I don't want to say it's like Fortnite.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I didn't want to say it's like Fortnite, but it has kind of some of that similar energy of like you're seeing people getting excited about it.
That kind of goes back to what I was talking about, like discovering those characters on your own and like discovering the connections between them. So like you're playing that game, right? And then you're like, maybe you read a comic and you're like, oh, that's why he has that catchphrase, or that's why, or I never knew that about that character, or, so
yeah. In fact, it was funny because I only played it once. I fired it up and there's like a game mode where it's like, I think it's just basically like a deathmatch game mode, kind of, where you're just, I know there's a lot of objective stuff, but this was just like a free for all, it seemed like. And I was just kind of cycling through trying out different characters. And my daughter was watching, and there were so many characters. She was like, she didn't know who Luna Snow was. And she's like, who's that? Like she's always interested in all the girl characters and stuff. And so she was just fascinated to learn about some of the new characters she'd never heard of before. It was really fun.
She's from Agents of Atlas?
Yep. Yeah. Kind of part of that whole team, but there's a lot, I know Squirrel Girl has her following for sure, but she's become like extra popular since that game came out. Jeff the Land Shark, characters who were definitely popular in their own right, but they're like hitting a second level of popularity now with like mainstream audiences.
And characters that never had, like, what was that? Was it Galacta or whatever?
Yeah. There's something with that. I don't think I don't know if it's a playable character or if it's just like a character in the game who like announces stuff maybe, but I didn't see her show up. Maybe you have to like unlock her or something. I only played a little bit, but I've definitely seen that talked about quite a bit.
So is that here's how out of the loop I am. Is that phone based or is that based? Is that a?
I played it on my Xbox, and I know it's on PC. I don't know if it's also on mobile. So
cool.
But it could be. It could be. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
I like what you said about it when you're. I mean, I watched like a bunch of the characters' intro screen things on, and the other day you're like, yeah, they really caked up or really cheesecaked up a lot of the female characters.
They certainly did. Like Invisible Woman is definitely not invisible.
Or you'd hope she wasn't invisible most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there's definitely like that style. Like Wolverine is a super thick big boy. He is just beefy in that comic book. Or comic book game. So it's worth kind of maybe just showing a picture for people to have like, what are you guys even talking about?
I know West Coast Avengers said he's been playing it.
I mean, I know I was reading Psychotron's comment here. He's saying that's not exactly on subject, but with the current conversation, Marvel Snap US ban, am I still playing Snap? Basically, is what he's saying. Yeah, I still try to play Snap. Not as much as I was. Like, you have to buy the season pass now to get the new characters and stay on the meta. So that really slowed me down quite a bit, because I don't want to pay $10 every couple of months or whatever it is to get the new season pass. But yeah, here's what the Wolverine looks like in this game. So he's pretty wide. Like,
looks like Ultimate Wolverine from back in the day.
Yeah. There you go.
He's pretty. Yeah, he's chunky.
Yeah,
it's like, and then Hulk Wolverine,
Weapon H,
right?
But yeah, it's fascinating. I love seeing people get into comic books. We're talking about it through this angle, and it's all kind of related. But hey, if people come because of Marvel Rivals, then great.
Well, yeah, I think like anything that can get people into comics and get them into that space is great. And did we talk about my buddy from work getting his kid to become a collector?
Is that the one you gave some comics to for Christmas?
Yeah, over Christmas. Like he has 4 kids and they were all coming down with various little bugs.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, they're all sick and laid up. And I said, hey, I'm gonna give you a big box of comics. And he came back the next week and he's like, my 12-year-old said he wants to collect comics. He thinks it's that cool. And I was like, that's so cool. And so I've shared it with a couple people, and now they're sending care packages for his son. Cool. And I was like, you know what? When I get those care packages, it would be really cool for me to just do like a little video and talk about getting your son into that. And I'm sure that after that happens, then there's going to be more care packages for his son. but yeah, nice. But any way we can get new readers, you know.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to reach out at the same time. There's a lot of you're killing it. So many great comments.
Yeah,
I love it.
There's a ton of great content to be popped up on the screen there for sure.
I love that Terry pointed out there's a whole video someone made of just the characters from Marvel Rivals walking away. I believe it. I
hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave.
Yeah. Figure Drawing says that some of the characters have overly long legs, like Psylocke. It's distracting, but in the best possible way, right? I mean, hey, why do you think people love these characters? They like beefy Wolverine, and they like long leg Psylocke. I mean, look at how Jim Lee drew Psylocke, and she's got some insanely long legs too.
That's a good point.
Yep,
Comic Book Day is a great point.
Yep, Psycho Phil always bringing the salient points here. Free Comic Book Day books are extremely important to that. By the way, that's worth mentioning too in relation to the Diamond story, because I do think that Free Comic Book Day,
Diamond,
yeah, Free Comic Book Day, you know,
I mean, it could still be facilitated through another distributor. I mean, it's not like.
I think Diamond was pretty instrumental in making that happen, though. So
yeah, it was actually the big person behind it. I mean, because I was there when it happened. Our cameras were there. There's a shop called Flying Colors in Arizona, and he saw the big lines around the block for the free scoop day for Baskin and Robbins, and he's like, why can't comics do this? And so he started pushing for it, and that he's the person who made it happen.
Yeah. No, I know that their distribution definitely I know they weren't doing it because I know shops are paying for their books, so it definitely wasn't for free, but I don't know if it was like they were subsidizing the shipping maybe or something on that, or
no, you had to pay for the books with your regular shipping. I did many a Free Comic Book Day. The prices are relatively low, depending. Like, because you're as a shop owner, you got to be like, okay, I'm giving this book away for free in the hopes that I'm going to get some new readership. Okay, 10 cents or whatever, 15 cents, 10 cents, but some of them got up for like 50 cents, 75 cents a book, and you're like,
yeah,
how many of these am I giving away?
I mean, it's kind of one of those things that I think a lot of readers or fans don't think about because of the name Free Comic Book Day, but it is
it's definitely not free for a reader. You have to buy the product. However, the companies try to make it cheaper, basically just to pay for the print run, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Gunsmith Cats. I'm not familiar with Gunsmith Cats.
That's an anime manga book.
Oh, okay. That would explain why I'm not familiar.
Yeah, beautiful artwork. Yeah.
I bet you, considering the context, I bet you I would like the artwork. Oh, Madman, yeah, Mike Allred. Oh man,
Red Rocket 7. Yeah.
Some good stuff. If Free Comic Book Day fails, we're all screwed. Yeah, I have a feeling it'll exist, but I know that it should be interesting this year at this point.
I gotta say, go ahead.
I was gonna say, to Sicko's point, the books are usually uncollectible as far as value, but that's not always true. There are some Free Comic Book Day books that have had some interesting first appearances, and even recently there's a Viz comic book that kind of took off a little bit. I can't remember what the first appearance was.
There's one that has My Hero Academia and One Punch Man first appearance in that
maybe that's that one. But yeah, there's some Star Wars ones that had some first appearances in it. So there's definitely some big ones out there.
Umbrella Academy. Anybody?
Yep. And I mean, sometimes those books get weighted differently. Like people still will, the standard comic book or paid comic book first appearance will be a bigger deal. But there's still some collectability in Free Comic Book Day. Usually the older ones.
The first appearance of Nadia Pym too was in a Free Comic Book Day. Then the regular book came out like 2 weeks later. But
yeah. Oh, and there's the whole Codex thing that was big because of the COVID and Free Comic Book Day shipping delays, and it was supposed to be the free first appearance, but the actual issue came out first. It was a whole thing. No one cares about that character anymore, really, for the most part.
Wasn't Blade's daughter or something just recently?
Yep. Yeah, that was a Axe Judgment Free Comic Book Day special. And she's hanging out. She was a big part of Blood Hunt, obviously, and a lot of stuff going on with her still. So, I mean, whether or not those books will ever become massive keys or not, they still have relevance as terms of collectors, and even in some dark ways too, because you'll see people, if they find out there's a first appearance of one of those books, they'll kind of go around and take handfuls of them and stuff, or try to, and it gets a little dark that way too, which why some shops are like, hey, limit 5 per customer or whatever. You'll see that kind of stuff, and we start understanding that these shops are still paying for those books. It kind of helps explain some of that.
It's also like that, like they put that white box on there for shops so that you can basically be like, hey, you remember you got this from here, so you can come back and see me again.
Yeah.
But then you get people who come in and they're mad because the book is stamped, and as a collector now, I understand the side of it, as well, but that's the whole point of it, is so that the shops can promote themselves.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, so I think we kind of have hit a lot of the points that we were going into the show. A lot of it's like, hey, conversation starters or idea starters to think about as you're recommending comic books to people.
Right.
Food for thought. That's the term I'm looking for. A lot of food for thought. I do want to take a second. I should have mentioned this earlier. I mentioned a couple shows that are on the EXP because we're also streaming over on the EXP. It's a series of comic book shows over on the EXP network, including us, so you're watching us there right now, or you could be. Another couple shows that are happening tomorrow night after the Comic Book Industry Insiders and Minute to Skim It. You also can catch Wonderland Comics at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, as well as Kicking It with Henri at 10 Eastern and 9 Central. And those are both a couple comic book claim sale shows. So if you want to go on and pick up some comic books, some great reading material, maybe you can find some stuff that's great to give to that new reader that you're trying to hook up with some books. Those are a couple great shows to check out tomorrow night on the EXP. So we as store owners paid for these books. It's our decision how we give it out to the community. There are no customers here. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I always love it when shops are more free with the kids taking extra books, and for the adult collectors, limiting, that's totally understandable in my opinion, but hopefully the kids are still getting their books. I love this comment, actually.
Yeah.
Stamp should actually add value. And I'm one of people who loves like seeing some of the grease pen writing on old comic books and stuff like that. I know a lot of people will say it doesn't affect value. A lot of people don't want it on their comic books. I think it's kind of cool because it shows some of the history of when that comic book was, on the newsstand back in the day. And I think that stuff's kind of fun. So
that's a good, awesome sauce. Had a good point there. That's a good one.
Preferred to bag and board my Free Comic Book Day stuff and put flyers for my shop in the bag and board to stamp it. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
That works.
Pops up. That's a great point. That's a great point about, especially as some of the big shops close. Like if you had one that was stamped by them, that can be.
I had like a whole nostalgia thing a little while ago where I opened up a comic and this little flyer, little coupon thing fell out. There used to be a bookstore here in Portland called Armchair Books, and they would put a little coupon inside every comic book or in every book that they sold, and it would say trade this book at Armchair Books. And I opened it up, and this place has been closed now for probably 20 years. And I opened it up and this little coupon thing came falling out. And I was like, oh my God, Armchair Books.
Yeah, I mean, you think about that. There's some cool stuff with the history of that. Like I get where, some collectors just want their things to be pristine. Totally, that makes sense to me. Like Terry says, might as well let my nephews write on the covers. I get it, but I also I appreciate the history aspect of it. Obviously, different strokes for different folks,
Right.
but and that's part of the beauty of collecting. Like some collectors don't give rat's patootie about Mark Jewelers, and some think it's really cool. Some don't care about newsstand versus direct, and some see the added value. I mean, there's just different things that are cool for different people. So
Yeah, I think that might have been by Millennium Records, Pop Sequential.
yeah, man, Millennium, that's a blast from the past. For people that it was a huge record store in Portland. Huge as far as impact, especially. So
Yeah, Armchair Books was so cool because it was like a maze. You could just barely fit through the aisles. And at the end of some of those aisles were boxes of comic books.
That's awesome. Speaking of awesome, I wanted to take a second to thank all of our comic book community submissions that we had for last year. Sorry that we have to, eliminate some of the people that got voted out in this first round, and we have some people that are moving on to the second round. Thank you for everybody who went out and voted for the comic book community posts. I will have the new posts going up throughout tomorrow, and I don't know if we'll wait a full week to announce the next round of winners. Maybe around like Friday or something like that. We'll cut off the voting and put out that'd be the semifinal. This is like the quarterfinal. That'd be the semifinal. And then we can kind of talk about the final going into next week's episode. That'd be kind of nice timing. So look for those posts. I'll put them up at first, and I'll invite Bigby to collaborate on them. So he'll eventually be able to collaborate on them, and you'll see it on both of our feeds, and we can add up the votes from everybody that way. But if you are interested in submitting your community art, like Headless Hammerhead earlier, we showed off that Supergirl piece, all the community art we had last year, and you want to be part of the contest, hey, anybody's free. If you're hearing me talk right now, you're free to submit that comic book community art. Just tag us, send it to us on Instagram. Like Bigby said, Instagram's probably the best place, but if you don't have Instagram, that's fine. There's other ways to get it to us. We'd love to see it. Doesn't matter if you're a stick figure doodler. Doesn't matter if it's your kids' artwork. It doesn't matter if, however you want to submit it, that's fine. We even have professional artists submit artwork. If you are a professional artist and you don't want to be included in the contest, but you still want to share your artwork, just let us know and you submit it, and we'll make sure that we still show it off. So
yeah, and like a lot of the professional people are like, hey, I just want to encourage people to draw. Hey, here's showing my piece, and just but tell people that I want to encourage. Hey, draw.
Exactly. And several of the people that we have in the community art contest are technically published on different varying levels right now. I wouldn't necessarily call them professionals. That's kind of a semantics thing, but that's totally fine. They have their art published in community art books that have been published for causes like Comics Curing Cancer, things like that. So we want everybody's art. Send it to us.
All your arts belong to us.
Oh man, nice reference. I haven't watched that in a long time. Awesome Sauce is going to go fall asleep. Have fun at AVN. Tell us all your scintillating stories next week, Adam. Hope you have a good, safe trip. We're going to be out of here in about a second or so, unless Bigby, did you have anything you wanted to promote, pump up, talk about coming up this week?
I just had an interview from me on Nerdy Musings on YouTube. So if you guys want to watch that, that's pretty cool. It was really fun. He's a great channel, so go sub him up. He's awesome dude. And have you met him?
I haven't.
Oh, well, he wants to contact you about an interview.
Well, I hope he reaches out.
I said many nice things about you. But no, super nice guy. He up in Puyallup.
Okay.
Super buff dude that runs a martial arts studio. That's his lifelong profession is a martial artist. but also into comic books and doing a podcast about comic
Sounds
books.
like fun.
Yeah,
so
I've
that's
got
on
on
the
there
Nerdy
also.
Musings channel, huh?
Yeah, nerdy musings. If you want to see a cool little short about Old Man Logan, I'm gonna pop that up. That was pretty cool. It had a wonderful comic hangout this weekend, so watch that video. And keep an eye out for stuff from me and Bronze. We got some other crazy plans. That was part of our hanging out on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a lot of stuff coming up. I should have a video dropping at some point this week about the infamous Golden Age honey hole that Bigby's talked about on his channel before. Little fun little haul / kind of just talking about some cool things about buying comic books. And yeah, hopefully there'll be some more content from us. We'll definitely be posting those updates on the community art contest. If you guys have any topics that you want us to talk about, any thoughts on this episode, and you're watching us on the rewind, or if you're watching live, feel free to leave a comment. We'll definitely take that in consideration. We love hearing about topics you guys want us to cover. And
hit that like button.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on all 3 channels, Bronze, Bigby, and over on the EXP. And thanks for talking about comic books and being engaged with us in the chat. We love it. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
Join the party. Head over to our Linktree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.